Hello and welcome. Today I will be your caster, TLG, and we are here for Week 2 of UCLA Collegiate League of Legends. And today I am bringing to you the Santa Clara Broncos. We here have a pretty interesting lineup. We have the new champion, Zari, being played for the first time. We do see it with lethal tempo. We'll see if that will just elevate the already ridiculous 825 range further, as we do see red side here, the Santa Clara Broncos, kind of just pushing up mid here. Syndra will get a bit of poke on Lee Sin, not that it will matter too much, but pretty ambitious move by Santa Clara Broncos. They are pushed up quite a bit. Here we do see the rest of UCLA's team just kind of positioning rather normally, nothing too special. Seems that the jungler will be starting top side, or blue side, for the team of UCLA, and the same for Santa Clara Broncos, starting red on Lee Sin. So I guess we have kind of interesting matchups going on here. We do have Gnar into Gwen, of course. Gwen being a very strong top laner right now. Maybe the first Poro will be able to kind of put her down a size or two if he's able to poke her out a decent enough amount in lane and not get too overwhelmed by the sheer all-in power and trading potential Gwen has in melee range. Here in mid lane, we do see Syndra vs Corki, which of course is Syndra favored pretty early on, but Corki being such a monster right now in his scaling, we'll just have to see how far Corki's able to take this laning phase without taking too many drawbacks, as he's already tanked 2 spheres of Syndra, so maybe this is looking like it's pretty favorable for Temetrius here. Chairman Pao is not doing too well on the health department. We do see Viego and Lee Sin clearing their topside camps, so we can only presume that they might either intend to 3-camp into a gank, but it's much more likely that they'll just full clear, meet each other bot side for Scuttle. We see here Doggo on the new champ pushing in the lane. Lulu is going to be giving Zari a lot of attack speed. We're going to see a lot of Qs going on here. Very interesting passive. I would like to note that Zari is unique in that her auto attacks are actually abilities, and her Q is actually an auto attack, for those who do not know the champion already. But especially convenient for her is that her auto attack ability, very confusing, I'm aware, has an execute and charges up and applies a slow. So it is a lot of things all at once, kind of hard to get the hang of until you see her quite a bit. So I don't blame anyone for getting lost this game. Of course, as usual, as you would think of a Gnar early, pushing in on the Gwen, as Gwen is not able to do much against the range. But Mega Gnar is coming out, and Gwen should be able to kind of just stay safe relatively under tower, as Gnar no longer has the range advantage to poke her. Mid lane, Corki's already forced to use teleport to come back to lane. This is huge for Syndra, who requires early leads in order to stay relevant, whereas Corki has a lot more late game potential. As I said, the junglers will be meeting bot side, but Douyu is actually able to get there quicker, and Lee Sin is unable to contest for smite, for Scuttle smite. Doggo is getting a good amount of poke in on the Nautilus. We'll see that even though Jhin is oftentimes a good neutralizing champion, Zari seems to be doing pretty well in this lane, Nautilus not actually having done much in terms of engages so far. UCLA will be getting the double Scuttle this game, hugely advantageous in terms of vision. But speaking of vision, there is no vision currently on this Lee Sin here, which may pose an issue for Alibye and Doggo. Fortunately for them, Lee Sin will be missing that Q, and will instead be looking at the Krugs, which have not been taken by Douyu, who's instead opted into getting the Scuttle topside. Syndra will now be using her teleport, and unfortunately not the greatest back in the world, as we do see Doggo and Alibye contesting the Krugs here. Jhin will snipe Alibye into a root, but not too big a deal. But as I was saying earlier, Syndra did get a back, but it was not the greatest kind of back, only a seal and a Amp Tome, not what you would be looking for in the Syndra-Corki matchup. You generally want something that's a bit stronger, like a Sork Boots back, or even a Lost Chapter back. However, given that Temetrius has been doing quite fine this lane, as we can see him poking down Chairman Pao really well, unfortunately to the point where he's going to vacate the premises and be ungankable for the time being, but that is a recall forced out of him. No more corrupting potions left to be used on Corki, and I guess he will be staying. He does have access to the 2 biscuits. The tier is great mana reserves. We'll just have to see if Temetrius is able to punish him further as he scatters the spheres. Douyou may be getting caught out here, a bit too pushed into the enemy team as, ooh, Chairman Pao nearly dying. Temetrius getting a great thrown sphere, and it seems that this roam might have been huge in the way of the Santa Clara Broncos. Nautilus coming up there, forcing a lot of pressure. You are getting the flash on both mid laner and jungle on the side of UCLA. However, UCLA is still winning in other facets, such as the fact that every lane and jungler is still ahead in CS. We'll just have to see how this first blood will transfer over later in the game, as we see bot side just kind of farming, ping-ponging the wave a bit here. Neither ADC has their support, so this early in the game, they're not going to be able to do much in way of killing one another. We do see his dragon coming up here with the Sim Nautilus, trying to help out Zasirius on Lee Sin, getting that dragon here. I thoroughly apologize for any mispronunciations here. We do see Gwen trading here in melee range of Gnar. Gnar is close to the Mega form, and I guess Gwen, seeing that her mana is low, is going to opt not into taking this trade further, instead having the wave pushed out a decent bit will recall. However, Gnar will have both the ability to choose whether to freeze this this wave and or push it out while she's gone. She does still have the... Oh my gosh, Temetrius with a clean kill mid lane on the Corki. Well played. Corki is going to struggle in the early game here, but Temetrius is really doing a good job punishing the Corki's movement. Especially now that the Corki is going to lose this cannon wave and the last wave before it because of the min and DMAT that Syndra had. Lee Sin's going to instead have to pick it up, and Nautilus is not going to be able to do much now that he's roaming while Corki is dead. Top side, both the Gwen and Gnar seem to be doing as one would expect. The Gwen just kind of struggling to get CS, but not actually dying, which is pretty good. Great for helping out her team, which is probably going to more so wish to facilitate things in the later game. We're going to see Jin likely play far back with his curtain call. Nautilus looking to get his... Oh, as we see, Poro kind of going for a trade here. Not going to be able to get much, will instead clear the wave. But as I was saying earlier, that later in the game, Red Side's going to mostly be playing for later game fights, where Lee Sin and Nautilus will facilitate as Corki and Jin kind of engage from the sides, doing large amounts of damage. So we'll just have to see if UCLA is able to take their earlier game themed team as far as possible in terms of lead. And to be quite honest, I'm not too sure how the scaling is of Zeri. All I know is that she is the mosquito that flies at the speed of light. So we will have to see just how well Doggo is able to manage this new champion. We're kind of in a lull state here, so we can take a look at items. We do have a Lost Chapter for the side of Syndra now, which is going to help her out in lane. Syndra does have a decent amount of mana issues without that Lost Chapter passive. Top side, we have the usually poor choice of Leeching Leer. Usually you'd always want to get Amp Tome and Blasting Wand first. The Omnivamp on Leeching Leer is not nearly as effective, and Gwen would much rather the raw 8p stats than the HP provided by the Ruby Crystal that builds into Leer. We do see nearly the item completed on Gnar, as he has both the Phage and Kindle Gem, which is 1900 gold total. More good trades coming up from Temetrius, really hurting the Chairman Corki. Viego will be opting into probably either most likely a Divine Sunder game, given he has Sheen Longsword, and Lee Sin, of course, going Gore Drinker. Bot side, we do see a pretty standard start on Zeri. I'm presuming that's building into either Trinity Force or Essence River, and then Jin is building straight into Gale Force. Currently, we're still maintaining this kind of lull state. Alibye has been roaming just a bit, so Zeri has to watch out bot side. Rift will be picked up for UCLA. We'll just have to see where Viego chooses to place this Rift Herald. Gnar is putting a lot of pressure on Gwen this game, really forcing her under tower, and it looks like Lee Sin is going to be staying bot side here, unable to really help her out. They do notice that Krugs are gone, but this control ward is actually going to pick them up. So they're not going to be able to surprise Alibye and Doggo too well, as they do now understand that they were in vision and will promptly back away. Chairman Pao is doing a bit better now, having scaled just a tad. We'll be trading a bit more fairly with Syndra, as Viego is hovering in our top side. Doggo short trade with Sim on the Nautilus. We'll just have to see exactly what happens here. Lee Sin will be hovering Corki, maybe looking for a fight mid lane. Instead, Corki's probably just going to attempt to bait. No, never mind. So Syndra was able to push the wave out in time, and unfortunately for Douyu, Gwen has her E, will be able to just back out of here, not too much an issue. He will be placing down the Rift Herald. We can presume that top tower will be gone here. That will be giving a pretty decent gold advantage. Actually, Rift will not take the tower, as First Poro and Douyu actually intend on leaving it open for a bit longer. Unfortunately for the Broncos, they're not able to pick much else elsewhere. They do have Dragon spawning in about 12 seconds, so 6 seconds. So it will be interesting to see if they're able to take this while Viego is gone. Lee Sin, unfortunately, getting quite an embarrassing miss, will try to redeem himself by killing the Lulu here. Lulu does end up actually CCing Lee Sin, really pulling them away when they should be focused on Dragon. Kind of an overextension here, if I do say so myself, giving plenty of time for Viego to come contest. The Nautilus actually, that hook may have landed well, but it's not going to be any good for them. Lee Sin is forced to kick out the Viego, and now whereas the Santa Clara Broncos had a pretty clear angle at taking the Dragon, both their jungler and support got kind of caught up. Jungler will be able to heal just a bit as Package comes out, really screwing over Temetrius, having to flash over the burning path. Maybe, oh, never mind. Lee Sin getting a bit too cocky, will end up falling as Douyu on the Viego will now become the blind man. Really pushing it, and now the Santa Clara Broncos will have no choice but to let go of this Dragon here, maybe fight another time. Gnar is able to take this tower at any time, but he seems to just wish to keep pressuring Gwen here, maybe even look for a kill. As Viego has been topside quite a bit, it seems that it does make a mark on the Gnar's experience, as Gwen is actually above him. Temetrius having a fine time on this Syndra pick mid lane, really pushing in this Corki a lot, does have that 20 CS on him. Dragon, as we can see, is still not being started until Nautilus hit it, but it will be in vision, so UCLA will be able to react in time. We are now seeing here Zeri being a prominent new champion, kind of chasing down Doggo, but it does seem like Santa Clara Broncos will be able to claim this first Dragon as Viego is late to it. Gnar on top side will be getting the tower, Doggo going in, taking a bit too much damage, and it seems that the Broncos are a bit too far for UCLA to keep going at them. Syndra will return mid and try to get more plates while they're still up. You got about 30 seconds. Does get a decent amount of poke, and Corki's really feeling the kind of obnoxiousness that is Syndra in this matchup. We do see bot side a heavy focus on trying to get these plates in the next 20 seconds. The wave will be pushed out, and Viego will go back to his jungle. It is nearly full of camps, so he has a lot of gold to pick up there. And it seems that the First Poro will simply help out Doggo and Alibye. Lee Sin and Nautilus will be here to protect the tower, clear the wave a bit, and it will seem that Gwen will get one last plate before plates fall. All over the map, we see quite a decent amount of influence by the junglers in the lanes, as we can tell that the junglers are pretty barren themselves. A lot of more so fighting and skirmishing in the river, trying to contest objective control and also force out the different champions in the side lanes. We will see Gwen backing here as the wave is pushed in. Zeri will be rotating top side to pick up these waves here. Temetrius sticking mid, really quick wave clear with her Q. Maybe Nautilus will look for something, but I think as he saw the Lulu here, he decided instead to back off, let Jhin free farm, get those relic shield procs, all all the very typical support things. Corki will be matching Zeri out here. I have no idea if Corki is in any place to actually contest Zeri, as Zeri does have a finished Trinity Force. Ludens will be out on the Syndra, and now it seems that the only ones without Mythic are the supports and Corki, which is not too surprising as he instead opted to finish his Muramana. It'll be interesting to see which Mythic Corki chooses to go this game, as we do currently know that he has 3 main Mythic, or I guess potentially 4 main Mythics, as we do see a small trade come out here on the bot side. We can expect a Ludens, a Crown, of Divine Sunderer, a Shield Bow, and I guess actually that makes 5 with Trinity Force. So, Corki does have a lot of options, some more optimal than others. I could presume that this game would be probably not the best for Crown, most likely a good Ludens game in my opinion, as Crown would be easily poked out by both Syndra, Zari, Gnar. We will see UCLA is in blindness as they're going to be taking down this Rift Herald. Corki will be continuing to clean up the top wave, as it seems that a lot of Broncos have based. They will be returning to lanes now. Ooh, nice ward on the Nautilus's part, getting some vision into the jungle here. Maybe looking for some sort of play in the future. Both teams seem a bit reset here. We will be seeing the Rift Herald being placed down shortly. And Viego will head to the bot side. It's probable that he will actually use the Rift Herald to cleanly get tower, but he may save it for mid, which would open up UCLA's map, or would open up Santa Clara's side of the Rift rather heavily. Zari getting a good amount of CS here, will be contesting highest numbers with the Jhin and Syndra. Syndra being the only champion in the game so far of the bounty with her really high 9+ CS per minute and 2 kills, proving quite the lead. We do see her already having somewhat like 26 or so AP, or magic penetration. DU getting caught out here, a bit unfortunate. Does seem that there was not much that could be done about that, however. Temetrius might actually get this tower though, the AP doing quite a decent amount of damage on this tower here. Nautilus being the only one answering, not going to do much as he'll instead opt to clear vision. Doggo and Alibye trying to protect this tower here, but they have to play it really carefully. Wave will be cleared, and Gnar coming down, or yes, Gnar and Syndra for that matter. They will have a really out of place TP by Shadow, but Nautilus will be able to cover. Here we now have a pretty close to 5-5 bot side. Viego is coming down here, as it seems that the Broncos wish to instead kind of try to disengage and leave. They will get the root off on the Gnar, but it seems that this dragon might just go in the way of UCLA. It'll be 5% attack speed and 5 ability haste when they claim the Hex-Tech Dragon. Pretty decent. Zari will love both of those stats. We'll just have to see exactly what Zari's able to accomplish this game, as she is the very sought-after new champion. Not much is known about her in terms of efficiency, optimization, or potential. We'll just have to see how Doggo continues to pilot. Chairman Pao will be cleaning up this Rift Herald here, not letting it traverse too far, as we try to see quite a slow war jump on Lee Sin here, but unfortunately it just won't be enough to get the first Poro, as everyone will back off here. We have quite a decent amount of champions gathering here in the mid lane. Unfortunately for this Corki, we'll have to blow the package on the wave. Probably could have held package for a later objective instead of taking it when there was nothing he could really contest too easily. Poro will continue cleaning up top side with the Gwen there. Seems that we're returning to a bit of a normal lane state. Syndra and Corki will be bot side instead, as Zari and Jhin will be picking up the mid waves from now on. We do have to wait quite a bit for the next objective spawn, as in 30 minutes we'll see Nasher, but Dragon will be up for another 4 minutes. Here we see quite a few people coming here mid. We'll have to see what they choose to do instead. Really not much going on now. I think both teams are more so thinking about trying to operate the game in such a manner that they focus more so on getting objectives later in the game rather than getting skirmishes. We have seen in the early game that both junglers trying to manage to get some sort of lead, but it seems that the players and the laners especially have been really good at kind of disengaging and spoiling these plans. So maybe everyone's kind of taken the idea that they just have to work for team fights instead, push out waves, get advantages this way. Oh, that was a great cancel on Diego of the Nautilus ult. However, we'll just have to see if it was just enough. Diego does miss the ult, not able to kill Jhin, but as the Broncos are pretty split, we'll see how much they're able to get. They will take down Doggo, and it seems that as Diego is pretty pushed in here, we'll have to see how he chooses to get out. Maybe... No, it seems that he's been given the rite of passage as all his team has left him. He's going to have to try to finagle something here. The control word will spot him out, and I don't know. There was not much to do there. His team probably made the right decision here. They will end up getting this top tower and the wave pushed in mid. Unfortunately, they will lose the bot tower here for this play. Besides that, it wasn't actually all that bad for UCLA compared to how it could have been had the Nautilus gotten the initial landing on the Viego. It was a good engage by Santa Clara, just a bit too spread out, and they ended up losing more than they bargained for in that. We do see Syndra is still far ahead. Zeri was struggling as she just kind of got immediately taken out of that fight right there. So not much that she was able to get out of it. We will see that the Runons is likely to come up here. Now, I'm not sure when the hotfix came out for the Runons missiles, but I guess it's possible that at the time of this game that Runon still applied the ult speed buff. I'm not terribly sure, however. Red side will see that Syndra will get this blue buff, and there are 3 topside by blue. Blue will get the control word on Baron as Gnar moves topside. Okay, and we do see here that Ludens was picked up by Corki, as I suspected. It is a much better pickup on Corki this game compared to other items. We do still see that Syndra has been able to keep up a gold lead on the Corki, about 400, 300 gold above him. However, at this point in the game, I think now it's the time for Corki to shine. And Syndra's probably going to lose a lot more of the potential she had early game, as Corki is going to do absurd amounts of damage, especially when he has package. We do see generally every champion here is about 2 items in, or about to be 2 items in. I guess Gnar being the one that's most... I guess Syndra just picked up her second item as well, but Gnar had been the one with the most items beforehand. Runon's also picked up a lot of power spikes being hit by the team of UCLA right before Dragons coming up. This will be largely advantageous. It depends on how Corki is able to manage here. Corki will be coming down powerful as ever. Just have to see how he manages his package of Valkyrie. The curtain call is coming out, is initiating, just as I had mentioned earlier, where curtain call and Corki will be playing more so on the back lines, as the 3 melees of Broncos will instead focus on trying to work on engage. Here we see a fabulous disruption by Corki. The package completely just destroying the lines of UCLA. However, Diego is so much stronger and is just going to be able to tear them down. Even Corki is going to fall to Diego here. And now, this is clearly a much worse situation than the Broncos were hoping for, as both Diego and Syndra are still alive, due with a great maneuver around the Lee Sin kick. Or Lee Sin Q. Syndra will pick up the wave instead. It seems that Diego will try to contest Dragon, but Syndra does not seem to be too interested. Maybe Syndra will instead burst it. We'll just have to see how this works out. Ooh! Diego nearly taking down Lee Sin, but instead it won't be enough. Oh my, that was a close kill on his Dragon. And it seems that Temetrius is likely to go down here. That's an unfortunate bounty given over to Lee Sin, who's been doing quite a lot this game, even if some of his plays were not the most quick at the beginning. Kind of an overextension here by Corki, but we do see all the TPs coming out for this Dragon. That's going to be 3rd Dragon for Broncos. It's going to be a huge advantage for them if they're able to get the Hex Dragon Soul, which will give them a lot of damage in their Static Shiv Soul passive. We will see that although UCLA's early team has given them quite an advantage in the early game plays, their team's slowing down a bit here. They are kind of losing that once held advantage as all the objectives are going to the side with Corki. And Corki right now is just a monster of a champion. It's going to be really focused on how UCLA is able to take down Chairman Pao at this point. Items-wise, we can see that both ADCs have finished their second item. Last fight, Jin did not have the LDR, but he will have it completed now. That'll mean a lot more damage on that Gnar. Not that I think Jin is actually too concerned with Gnar. Gnar has not been too much of an issue, as the team of the Santa Clara Broncos have been played pretty split, making it hard for Gnar to get big impact Gnar ults. Zeri, of course, is probably going to be looking for... I'm not quite sure what next item. Usually it's something like a Black Cleaver or a Titanic Hydra from what I recall of Zeri builds, but being the new champ with already a funky build, we can only guess as to what Doggo intends on building. We are seeing a rather decent amount of focus on this red buff here. It will work out possibly for the case of UCLA, yes, and they will leave with their lives, although it was kind of a risky play there. Doggo will pick up this wave incredibly fast, with Runons applying so much damage on the minions here. They're kind of nae-ramming it. We'll see how they wish to take it. They have to be very wary of objectives here, because if they go down one more objective, UCLA might be unable to recover any further. Mega Gnar is about to transform. Not able to do much. Shadow is a bit out of position here. We'll see how Gwen moves. Instead, Lee Sin will find Temetrius in the brush. Not able to do much. And it seems Curtain Call is going to push them all the way back to their mid tower. Maybe Santa Clara will take this moment to look for Baron, as they have now regained control of the river, but there's a lot of vision by blue side here. It seems that the Corki is doing massive amounts of damage, really poking holes in the HP of UCLA. Everyone getting hit here. Might be in the best interest to actually get Wit's End maybe, second on Zeri, who knows. Nautilus does go in. Actually, UCLA, or the Broncos will find a kill pretty early on. Nautilus being a huge tank here, not able to be taken down. A lot of the Broncos are very low HP, but they're getting the kills, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Oh my god, what a massive hook by the Nautilus here. That will be probably enough to warrant Baron here, as UCLA is down an entire team fight. Only able to pick up the Nautilus at the very end. This is probably going to spell the end of this game, as this Baron buff will blast into the dragon, and that soul will be pretty difficult to manage, especially with all of Corki's damage already being in the game. Red team does end up getting Baron, as blue side does barely come up. So now it'll be about blue side kind of trying to push in the waves. UCLA will want to clear all their camps and hope for the best coming this dragon. So we do see the Titanic, or not the Titanic, but the Tiamat out on the Zeri, but we also see a longsword, which would indicate that it's most likely a Ravenous Hydra instead of a Titanic Hydra. RFC on the Jin, so this Jin is opting for utility over damage, as IE would, although do more damage, would not increase his range like RFC does. GA being a pretty big pickup on Lee Sin here, it's going to make him very difficult to manage when it comes to his dragon fight. Ravenous Hydra, a bit of a mixed build going on Corki here. He's not instead going for a continuation of a more spell build. He's going both spell and auto attack theme. And then Nashor's being a more controversial pickup on the Gwen. I know many Gwens that dislike the item. I know many Gwens that live by it. We'll just have to see how much auto attacking this Gwen actually ends up doing. Thornmail, interesting choice on the Gnar, as two of the main threats for him are AP, but he does have the treads to at least carry him somewhat. This fight here will probably spell for the rest of the game. We'll have to see how it comes out. Gnar is close to form, which is really good for the side of UCLA, as they're getting a bit of poke on his dragon. But we do see here Corki with a flank, possibly going to be massively problematic. Curtain Call is going to come out and will slow some of the members of UCLA. Chairman Powell looking for an angle, will in fact use his package defensively and instead claim the soul. This fight is going to go down. Nautilus does get the Gnar, but Gnar gets an equally great ultimate. Diego going in, almost killing his dragon. Jin will be out with his life. Gwen goes a bit too deep, as well as Nautilus. And it seems that it's actually a rather even fight, although, of course, as we know, that this soul and then the already scaling side of the Broncos will probably result in a favorable outcome for them here. Doggo and Alibye on the wrong side of the rift. They are going to be pushing up, maybe looking to face him off, but no. Oh, never mind. The Mosquito will... never mind. The Mosquito's not fast enough, as Corki will clean up, and Corki has been such a monster this game. Such a wonderful scaling pick. And if it's not dealt with early, it really just carries straight into the late game here. Corki is a bit blood hungry here as he almost goes for the Syndra. Instead, will be satiated through the death of the minions here. Gnar and Viego return to the rift, and Alibye and Doggo still have 15 seconds more to go. It's going to be pretty hard for UCLA here to kind of pick up the pace. It seems that this is quite the lead that the Broncos have picked up. They are 10 kills ahead, 3.2k gold. So with that soul already, it's going to be pretty nasty for UCLA to manage. One thing going for UCLA is that they've only had one tower fall so far, so in terms of map pressure, they're doing pretty well. Nautilus did opt for the Evan Shroud this game instead of the Locket. I believe either or is probably acceptable. Evan Shroud does expand the lead, whereas the Locket helps against the carries. But as we've seen these fights, Nautilus has not been with the carries very much, as both Corki and Jin have been opting into being quite distant. And we see exactly why as they kind of burst out Viego, who's a rather tanky champion to half HP. As we see, he is actually looking for the Death Stance, presumably, here as his third item. Again, not nearly as much MR as you would expect on the side of UCLA here into such a magic damage heavy comp. I guess that's just because the Jin and or the Lee Sin might come off as scarier, presumably. The mid tower here will be pushed in, as it seems that UCLA will be unable to protect it. They do have bounties up, so if UCLA isn't able to manage any sort of comeback here, it will be almost enough to mitigate all of the income issues, if not give them a gold advantage. Will not help them with the soul. The only saving grace UCLA has basically at this point is an Elder into Baron, or something akin to that, where they are able to get temporary buffs to carry them through their already disadvantageous state. Gwen will be pushing in topside, which Syndra will then pick up. Looks like bot side is being a bit abandoned here, as the dragon does not come up for a little bit longer. Instead, we will be towing around Baron, trying to gain vision. That will be up in a minute's time. We do see a lot of positioning here. Will be interesting to see which team takes the initiative, or if they just both choose to back off. Instead, it looks like it'll just be a poke fest. Surprisingly, side of the Broncos will be taking a bit more poke than one would presume, but that is just the power of the Zeri wall magic, I guess one could call it. Whatever this new champ does. The mysteries of Riot's imagination. It does seem that a lot of control is being given up, though, to Broncos, as UCLA most likely understands that they have to take the most perfect fight imaginable for them to stay in this game here. They're not going to be too risky, but they're also going to be trying to be as opportunist as possible. A lot of the waves are being missed here in the side lanes, as both teams are more so concerned about this objective control. Here we see a nice split here. Nashor's is actually being really impactful here, as I was mentioning earlier about the Gwen pickup. The Nashor's is going to help with getting the dragon just a bit faster, as Corki deletes Alibye. Curtain Call coming out, will be hitting Poro. Gnar will get form and get more HP and live, but that does not mean Baron will live, as Baron is now about dead. Here, Red Team has the numbers advantage, the Baron advantage, and presumably, if all things go their way, they will have the Elder advantage in minutes' time. We'll have to see how UCLA chooses to come back here. It does seem that these item advantages have been hugely impactful, as we see Corky's 5 items in here, only missing a final item. Will need to replace his corrupting potions for it. He has been very true to his corrupting potions, still having it 35 minutes in the game. The Jhin is kind of stunted at this point, having picked up the Quicksilver Sash instead of the BF Sword. So now this Mercurial Scimitar will take the place of Infinity Edge, whereas Infinity Edge would be much more damage, but I guess that just means they're putting all of their eggs into the basket that is Corky. Lee Sin is continuing to go more utility, which I appreciate. I definitely think the tankier, more executioners-focused, utility-focused build here is acceptable when you have so much potency out of both the Jhin and the Corky. Gwen getting Zhonya's here is going to be highly problematic for Viego and Gnar, as she will be able to shred them up and then kind of safely disappear for a moment. This Elder Dragon has just about spawned here, and we can see the great positioning and vision that Broncos have. They just have to decide whether they choose to rush it and or look for a pick first. Jeez, Corky does a lot of damage here. Zeri will nearly miss side of Broncos, as they will try to position better for this dragon. However, they have a huge issue in that the Baron buff on the Gwen is going to cause them to possibly lose out their top side here, as the inhibitor has just fallen. Maybe even Gwen is able to finish this game before this Elder Dragon even falls, as it seems that all of UCLA is going to be pretty incapable of managing. Gnar will come down without Mega Gnar, maybe unable to even fight against Gwen here. They actually kill Corky here, which is pretty massive. That's a lot of damage lost, and so it's going to be mostly on the Jhin here to see if they can win this out. They don't have that much burst anymore because Jin's slow attack speed, and it seems that instead that the Broncos will instead opt to fight out this instead of going after the dragon, which has seemed to have worked in their favor, as UCLA is now down 3 members. We'll have to see if Lee Sin and the gang will pick up the dragon here, as it seems they will, and this will make it nearly impossible for the rest of UCLA to get back here. We'll see exactly a needlessly large rod coming on Corky, so we will see that it will be a Rabadon's last item here. So Corky is going to end up with a lot of AP, which means a lot of poke damage, as well as Ravenous Hydra giving him healing. It's going to be massively difficult to manage if no one's able to stay on him sustained, because if he's able to kite out, no damage will ever stay. We do see the BF start out on Jhin, but it looks like this game will be over before IE's ever managed to be completed. Interestingly enough, a Ward Stone pickup on the Nautilus. Very uncommon item. Will give him the extra ward and control word placement, however, and that, I guess, will be a bit more obnoxious to deal with, as they already have so much more map control at this stage in the game than UCLA, so just more vision while it's there will be nasty to deal with. Gwen picking up the Cosmic Drive, usually a second item, now picked up 4th here. And Gnar is just now getting to go for a Force of Nature. I kind of like that pickup, but it'll be a bit too late at this point. Same thing with Viego getting a Null Magic Mantle, probably either choosing any assortment of AP resist items here. Temetrius is nearly dying to the Elder Dragon True Damage burn, but will live. This turret will go down, and so will this inhibitor, and I think with the full team here, if they push out bot side as well, double super minions, as well as just the amount of dragon gapping that Broncos have here, will just result in a massive lead here. Nope, it will be very difficult to manage. Zeri is, as a mosquito, is not terribly effective, just a bit of a nuisance. And it looks like they'll be pushing in. Maybe we'll see one fight come out here, or instead Corky will probably just be the fight instead of one-shotting everyone, as his damage numbers are not very ethical at the moment. Oh, going in a bit too deep here will not matter. Lee Sin will have the safety of Guardian Angel, and instead the game will be ended. First game does go to the Broncos.